Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. Welcome to part 2 of our three-dimensional typography from scratch. This week we're going to hang out just in Photoshop and we're going to pull in what we did last week in Illustrator into Photoshop just to give it its finishing touches and really bring it to life. So this is the final outcome of this video. So we're just going to jump right in. This is what we created last week, if you'll remember. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in these color schemes right now. So we've got them to refer to as we're working in Photoshop. So I'm just going to Command-C or Control-C it to copy it. And then this document is just 8.5 by 11, 300 resolution, because 300, in case you ever wanted to print this out, it's a pretty nice size and resolution. Everything's going to come out crisp and beautiful. So just create a new document, 8.5 by 11, 300 resolution. Okay, so I'm going to create, let me get rid of these old files here. All right, let me turn this off. We're starting from scratch. I'm going to paste in our color palette. And I'm just going to keep it up here. And this is going to be really important to label all of your layers as we go because it's going to be really, really easy to get confused. So just a heads up on that. So I'm just going to label this color palette and we're going to set a background color. So I'm going to eyedropper this salmon color right here. I'm going to send it to the back. So this is my background color. All I did was hit the little arrow. And then I'm going to hit Command Delete or Control Backspace if you're on a PC, and that's just going to color the whole background. It's just going to fill it, and I'm just going to label this background color. Okay, so we're going to do a few fun things to the background color before we bring in our type. So I'm just going to double click on this, and if you've ever purchased my grit textures, we're going to use one of the pattern textures from that. If you haven't and you don't want to, that's cool. You can use the mini grit textures that I gave away a couple weeks ago. I'll leave a link in the video description and I'll throw an annotation on this video too that you can click on and you can download those. You can use those for your background instead of this pattern overlay, but I'm going to use the pattern overlay because I really like it. Not this one. Don't get confused. All right, so the one that I'm using is, let's see, which one am I using? Let's do this one, pattern number 1. We're going to make it really big. We're going to make it 150 scale. We're going to set the blend mode to screen to make it white and soft and pretty. And yeah, that's it. So we're good. So now you can see we've got this nice subtle texture going on right here, which is really nice, because we're going to introduce some texture into our shadows too. Okay, now we can bring in our typography. So I'm just going to select, just rubber band select everything, and then you're going to deselect the shadow on it. It's important to keep your shadow separate. So I'm just going to hit Command-C or Control-C on a PC to copy. Come back to Photoshop, Command-V or Control-V on a PC to paste. Paste it as a smart object. And the cool thing about pasting it as a smart object, if you ever want to change colors later, you can just double click on this. It'll open up in Illustrator. You can change any colors in Illustrator, then just save it, and then come back in Photoshop and it'll automatically have your changes made. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so back into Illustrator. Now I'm going to grab the shadow, Command-C or Control-C to copy. Come back to Photoshop, Command-V or Control-V to paste. Paste as a smart object. Okay, so we need to send it behind our letter. So let's label these. This is, let's just call this original. And this is our shadow, original shadow. Okay, so we're just gonna drag this one below our original, and let me zoom in here. And I'm just gonna move this like we did before, where this corner and this corner match up. Just slide that there, and then we're going to make sure this is set to multiply our blend mode, and then we're going to reduce this down to maybe 50%, 40%. Okay, so now we kind of have where we left off last week, only we've got a nicer background going now. So in order to go from this to this, we're going to bring in some of these nice shadows here. And it's a little methodical how we're going to do it. The important thing to always remember is that our light source is coming from over here. So it's going to hit and highlight these edges. And then obviously when it hits this edge, the The stuff underneath it is going to get a shadow, so we have to bring in those shadows. And then right down here, we're going to have shadows, and even on the base of the T, the bottom serif is going to have a shadow as well. And we're going to bring in some nice texture here. Okay, so we're going to turn this off. And this is the part that can get a little confusing layer-wise, so it's very, very important to keep layering or keep labeling your layers. So I'm going to zoom in here, and this process can be a little confusing too, but I'll explain exactly what I'm doing along the way, so hopefully that'll help any confusion. All right, so we're going to come to our original layer. All right, we're going to hit W on our keyboard, which is our magic wand, and we're just going to click the white area. So because we're on the original layer, we're able to click this white area on the T. Now we're going to create a new layer. I'm going to hit L on my keyboard. That is the lasso tool. And I'm using the polygonal lasso tool, so just make sure you've got this one, not the regular one or the magnetic one. Just the regular middle one, polygonal. All right, so we need a shadow that comes in right around here. And it's going to fill in where this white is, which is why we have it selected, because we want it to be the same shape, so we don't have to draw it from scratch. So we don't need any of the selection down here. We just need this top part selected, because then we can fill it in with the color that we want. And we want the shadow to go from where this shadow hits right here, so this point, and we kind of want it to come at the same angle as this, because this part is creating the shadow on it. So if I kind of mimic this angle and I come from this line, it's going to kind of come around here. It's actually going to be pretty close to here. I could even cheat it and go right to this corner if I wanted to. Actually, I think I'm going to do that. So with my lasso tool, I'm going to hold Alt on my keyboard, and this is going to subtract a selection. So I'm just going to come over here. I usually click away and then I click here, so I know I'm clicking right on it. And then I'm going to come up at this angle. You can release Alt now. Once you click once, it'll keep it as a negative since you're removing a selection. And then I'm going to click up here. So I made this part with my angle. And then this is the remove selection tool. So I'm going to close this, and as soon as I close it, it'll remove this part of the selection, and this is what will remain. Now I can fill this part with a shadow, and I want that shadow to be the salmon color. And if you don't have the salmon color right now, just hit I on your keyboard. You won't lose your selection down here. And then eyedropper that salmon that you need, make sure you send it to the back. And then on your new layer that you have, you're going to hit Command-Delete or Control Backspace on a PC, and that's the keyboard shortcut to fill it in with color. Now I can deselect it, Command-D or Control-D. And now we just need to reduce the opacity of it so it does look like a shadow. So let's bring this down to 50%. Okay, so if we zoom out, you can see we're getting a nice shadow right there. So now we need to do kind of the same thing over here. If we look at our reference, this whole part is going to create a shadow kind of on this area, and we're kind of mimicking the same angle only over here. So we're going to come in and do the same thing. Okay, so we're going to label this one as top left T shadow. All right, so we're coming back to the original because we need to make our selection off of the original artwork. So I'm going to hit W on my keyboard again for the magic wand tool, and I'm going to click on the white area. So now we've got the selection. It's very important you're on the original layer when you make your selection because you're making the selection from the original layer. We're going to create a new layer once again, and now we're going to go back to our lasso tool, hit L on your keyboard, and then we're going to remove a selection once again, and we're going to come off of this corner and we're going to kind of follow this same angle over here. So I'm going to hold Alt, I'm going to click once, and then you can let go of Alt. It'll keep the minus sign there. I'm going to click, I can zoom in here a little bit too. I'm going to click this corner, and then I'm going to mimic this angle over here, only I'm going to make it kind of come up over here. So that, maybe here. Okay, that looks good. And I want to remove this part of the selection because I want to keep this part to fill with shadow. So I'm just going to come around and close the selection. And now that removes that part of the selection. And since I have a brand new layer right here, I'm going to fill it with the same color. You should still have the salmon color to the back. I'm going to hit Command Delete or Control Backspace to fill it in. And once again, I'm going to deselect it, Command D or Control D on a PC, and then come over here and reduce the opacity to 40%. Okay, and if we zoom out, it's looking pretty good. All right, so now we can come in, we need to create shadows right here, and then shadows on the bottom. And these ones, I think we can do these ones without selecting the white, but this one, it's got a little bit of a curve right here, so I wanna make sure we go through the same steps again. Let's label this layer top right T shadow. Okay, come back to the original, W on your keyboard, click the white area, create a new layer, come in here, hit L on your keyboard, hold Alt because you're removing a selection, click anywhere, click this corner. We want to get rid of this part because we want the bottom part to carry our shadow. I'll remove that. Whoops, I did not close that correctly. Let's try that again. You want to make sure you close it. There we go. All right, so now this is selected and now we're going to fill it in. Command Delete or Control Backspace. Command D or Control D to deselect. Reduce the opacity. 40. Label bottom serif shadow. Okay. All right, that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'll speed up the video for this part, but you know what we're doing here. So same steps as before. Okay, so we're back. Now comes the fun part. We're going to throw in some texture into these shadows. So these shadows kind of lift the texture up a little bit, just give it a little background behind it, darkening. By all means, you can remove the shadows and just use the texture only. I felt since we have kind of a light area happening here that we could use a little extra to boost the texture up, so that's why I'm keeping them for mine. So this part gets a lot easier. We're going to start where we did before with this top left T. So this is why it's important to label your layers because we're going to have quite a few of them. And now I'm just going to hit Command and then click on this area, or if you're on a PC, hold Control and then click, and that'll make this selection. Then I'm going to create a new layer. And here's you have two options right here. You can go and use the mini grit texture once again, and you can just create a clipping mask. You just place the texture in and then right click. So let me show you how you would do that. Okay, so this is the mini grit texture. You can take the texture here, Command C or Control C on a PC, come into Photoshop, make sure you paste it above the layer that you want it, Command V or Control V on a PC. Then you can scale it and reposition it or adjust it however you'd like. And then you can just right click, create clipping mask, and it'll mask it right into that shape. And then you can just add whatever kind of blend modes you want to add texture that way. The way that I'm going to teach in this video is using a specialized brush. So let me delete that right now. Okay, so for this one, I think it's more fun and more creative to use a custom texture brush. And there's one person that I kind of swear by with his brushes are amazing. You can't really top them. So I am a huge supporter of creatives that create assets for other designers to use. And this guy's name is Kyle Webster, and he creates amazing Photoshop brushes. So I bought one of his brush packs. I think it was $6, so really affordable too. I will leave a link to the brush pack that I bought And you'll see how powerful it is right away. It was a no-brainer for me. So that's what I'm going to use on this, because I feel like it takes the texture within the shadows to a whole new level that you just can't get with using clipping masks. So that's why I want to teach using this way. So I'm just going to hit B on my keyboard. First, I'm going to do what I did before, Command and then click this left T shadow or Control click, and then make sure you have a layer right on top of it. Okay, so over here, when you download Kyle's brushes, they'll show up in this palette when you install them. And the one that I want to use for this one is called the Perfect Pencil Basic 6 Pixel. So I'm just going to click on that. And the really awesome thing about this brush, if you hit your close bracket key on your keyboard, you can scale it up. So I want to make sure this brush, hold on, let me hit I on my keyboard and eyedropper this color, and then I'll hit B. So I want to make this shadow a little darker. So I'm just going to zoom in. And the cool thing about this brush is whenever you click it, it rotates it. So you can start getting some really nice overlapping spontaneous texturing. And I know that over here it's going to be a lot darker of a shadow than over here, so I'm just going to kind of build this one up a little bit. And you can see how it's rotating every time I click it. So it's really dynamic, and it helps give that randomized texture quite a bit. Okay, so once you're happy with how it looks, you can deselect, Command D or Control D on a PC, and you can kind of play around with your shadow settings. So that's feeling pretty good. I actually might want to make my T shadow even darker, since this is really bumping it up. So let me bring in, let's bump this to like 75, maybe even more. Let's go to 100. All right, it's really starting to come to life. And definitely feel free to play around with different color palettes too. We can reduce the shadow down a little and see if that helps. I just don't want to compete with the shadow. They were seeming a little too similar to me. So actually 50 was pretty good. So you're still getting the texture, but it's not overwhelming. That feels much better. Okay, I'm gonna stick with that. And make sure you, once again, you're labeling your layers. So this one will be top left T texture. And I'm just gonna group the top left T's together, Command G or Control G on a PC, and this is gonna be top left T. I'm a stickler for having extremely organized files, because when I worked in an agency environment, it was really important whenever someone else needed to use your file. I always wanted to make their life easier, as anyone should, right? So I always wanted to make sure I had everything labeled, organized, grouped, color-coded, whatever. It just helps, you know? Okay, so over here we'll do the same exact thing that we did before for this shadow. Once again, I'm going to hit Command and then click here to select it, create a new layer, and then hit B on your keyboard, and your the same brush settings that you were using before will show up, and you can just start brushing them in again. So I'm just going to do this and fast forward as I go. Okay. So once again, we're going to come over here and we're going to choose multiply and reduce this down to 50% to match what we had done before. And that's looking really good. And if you're curious what it looks like without the shadow underneath, you could get some nice effects there too. It's just an option to have it. I like punching it up a little bit more. So especially when you get in here, it's really detailed and beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to label this once again, top right T texture. And then group these two together, Command G or Control G on a PC, top right T. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing we did right here, and this bottom one, and I'll fast forward everything so we can make use of our time. Okay, so we've got texture on all the shadows that we created, but we don't have any texture on these inside kind of ornaments within the serifs. So I want to bring in just a little bit of texture within these ones. So I'm going to come back to my original and I'm going to hit W on my keyboard, and this will magic wand select just this texture right here. And then I can also hold shift and select these other textures while I'm at it. Let's just do them all together at once. And then I'm going to create a new layer. This time I'm going to make sure my brush is the salmon color, so I'm just going to make sure the salmon color is in the foreground, and then I'm going to hit B on my keyboard for my brush, and I'm going to get the same settings as before, and I'm just going to slightly brush in a little bit of texture within these shadows just to add it a little extra depth. You can see it kind of makes a nice little difference. Plus it makes sense with the other shadows that we have. We're going to keep our long shadows a little cleaner just because we have the texture coming through from the background. So this is looking really, really nice. So the last and final touch that we need to make after we label this, inside T texture. Okay, so as you saw in the original, we've got this really nice kind of halo around everything. So we're going to add that in and then we're going to be done. So I'm just going to come, let me remove the color palette. I'm just going to turn that off. And now we're going to come right above the background color. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to hit V on our keyboard for our brush tool, and we need to change to a large soft brush, which should be your first one right here. And we're going to make sure it's white. So if you click right here, you get the default black and white. And we just want to make sure the white's in the foreground. So you can hit X on your keyboard. That's the keyboard shortcut to switch them, or you can hit the arrows and it'll switch them as well. Okay, so now we need to make this a gigantic brush. So I'm just going to hit the close bracket key on my keyboard, and that will make it very big. And then I am just going to click once. And that gives me a nice kind of halo around it. And then I'm going to hit Command T or Control T on a PC, and this is the free transform tool, so we can make it even bigger if we want and reposition it. I think the size that we had was pretty good. It is a little bit bright, so we can reduce that a little bit, and you can also play around with your blend mode settings, so this makes it very subtle. Let's see what overlay does. That's kind of nice too. If you wanted more of a blend than just a straight up white, maybe I'll keep that. That looks good. Okay, so that would be our final. So this is going to be highlight. Okay, so that is how to create three-dimensional topography from scratch using Illustrator and Photoshop. This is the conclusion of our two-part series. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. I release a new design tutorial every single Tuesday, and be sure to head on over to my blog, every-tuesday.com, to see even more design tutorials, and I've got a bunch of design freebies on there too. I'll leave all the links to everything mentioned within this tutorial in the video description, so be sure to head there and you can pick everything up. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.